Welcome back to the Sleepers Media YouTube channel. I'm Riley Davis, joined by Brian Rauf. Both of us contribute to Heat Check CBB along with working on this channel, and we're back breaking down UNC's win over Clemson from the weekend. The Tar Heels went into Little John Coliseum and they left with a 65-55 victory. Brian, these are kind of consensus been seen as the top two teams in the ACC really over the past month and a half. What did you take away from both of these squads?
This kind of hammered home the two main points of emphasis that I have seen from these teams over the last couple of weeks or so. From a UNC perspective, they keep going back to the fact that they have mature performances where they're now playing to a standard that the teams the last two seasons did not play to, right? The first two seasons of the Hubert Davis era were filled with high variance games. For some games, they look incredible. Other games, they look awful and lose to teams they shouldn't lose to, and you wonder what's happening, what's going on. Like, this team can't do anything. The last month or so, UNC has played at a very consistent level, and improved defense is a big reason why for that. I wrote on the Rauf report that's up on heatcheckcbb.com, or will be, depending on when you view this video. Make sure you go to heatcheckcbb.com and check that out. UNC has been elite defensively the last couple of weeks, and that has really led to some of these mature, more stable performances. And so we saw that against a good Clemson team. And for Clemson, they shot 1 from 18 from 3. Like, that's not going to happen again, and that certainly plays a role in the loss. Your role players played pretty well. Chase Hunter had a good game. Shefflin had a good game. Gerard did not. But me and Carter Elliott talked about it on the preview for this game, is that we know PJ Hall is a good player. We know he's a very good player. Don't know if he's a great player. And this was a game where kind of needed him to be great to win. If Clemson is going to become the team that is next for them, right, to be a top 15, top 20 team, win an ACC championship or be in that race, you need a superstar, and your superstars to play like superstars in the big games, to carry you to wins in games like this where something doesn't go right. Shoot 1 from 18 from 3, and he had one of his worst games of the season. And now PJ Hall is not the reason why they lost this game, but this is another mark in his career, which has been a very good career. But if you're talking about PJ Hall as being a All-American candidate, ACC Player of the Year candidate, like, you got to show up in these games and carry your team to some wins. And he hasn't done that. And so I think UNC is certainly better than Clemson. Clemson's going to shoot better from 3, but UNC didn't play all that great either. So I'm left. I think I need to see a little bit more from PJ Hall, honestly.
Yeah, and I think going off of that PJ Hall point, you made the point when you said UNC has been elite defensively over the past month. What's crazy, after that UConn game, UNC lost. It was 87-76. They had dropped to 47th in defensive efficiency on KenPom. They're all the way up at the time of recording to the 16th best defense in the country, according to KenPom's metrics. 17th. Gave him a little more credit. Even after the Charleston Southern game, UNC was at 39th, and they moved up 22 spots in 2 games, all the way up to 17th. Like, that is a wild jump, but it's kind of the culmination of some pivots that Hubert Davis made to the scheme before the Oklahoma game, after the Kentucky loss, where Carolina stopped switching everything. They're mixing in more hard hedges. They're minimizing getting RJ Davis and Elliot Cadeau switched onto bigs, because that was what was often hurting them the most. Especially Cadeau was really prone to foul trouble if you get switched onto a 4, switched onto a 5. They found a way to do that. They've been much more aggressive, even with their on-ball pressure. I think the emergence of Seth Trimble playing about 20 minutes a game over the last 4 has really helped too. But I'll stay in the front court and say, I think, like, this game that we saw from Armando Bott, I kind of think was his best performance of the year. It was a very 2022-ish stat line for Armando: 14 points, 16 boards, 3 blocks. That was the type of numbers he put up as Carolina made the national title game. It's not flashy. He's called himself a garbage man before. He prides himself on doing the dirty work and putting up numbers while doing it, and, like, kind of an ugly, gritty way. I thought his defense on PJ Hall was phenomenal. And how he's emerged to be able to give more shot blocking, more rim protection. I mean, he has 9 blocks over Carolina's last 4 games, and one of those was just one block against Charleston Southern, where I think he played like right at 20 minutes because Carolina was up by a million.
Right.
Like,
Right.
so
It's UNC against Charleston Southern. Yeah.
like his defense has been so impressive, and we're starting to see some of the weight that he shed this offseason to get more mobile. I think has really helped him, and it's helped him stay on the court and not lose any steam.
Yeah, he's always been a good rebounder, good scorer, and a solid defender, but had never been like that elite rim protector guy who
Hmm.
was going to be a huge deterrent around the rim. Right.
Hmm.
And I don't know, even at this point of his career, if he is going to develop into that consistently. But
Right.
he's showing that and is having a bigger impact around the rim right now than I think he has in his career. That is allowing UNC to play a little bit more aggressive with their guards in the perimeter. And you brought up Seth Trimble. I think his role increasing has been huge in that too, because I think he is their best perimeter defender, or
Hmm.
at least most agile and versatile perimeter defender. Let's put it that
Yeah.
way. I think Hubert Davis too has figured out ways to use Harrison Ingram on that end too, as sort of a chess piece depending on opponents. But I think Baycott also took this matchup a little bit personally.
I think you're right.
Not to totally bag on PJ Hall here, but PJ Hall had some words for Zach Edey earlier in the season when Clemson was undefeated and Purdue was not. PJ Hall has been getting a lot of ACC Player of the Year type love and being the best big man in the ACC when Baycott has held that mantle for what feels like 2 decades now at this point. I think there was a little bit extra in this game from Armando, and it played out. I think it was a reminder that he is still one of the best big men in the country.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree with you, and it's been really nice to see him start to hit some of his stride. And I don't think just the way this offense is structured, where you have RJ Davis really getting whatever he wants out of a ball screen, like he is the safety valve. He's who they go to for offense. Cormac Ryan hasn't shot it at a high percentage, but he feels like a pretty safe 10 point a game floor. Really good cutter, moves well without the ball. And then Harrison Ingram, he's had a little more variance recently. He's working his way through a wrist injury, but he's been consistent double digits all throughout the year, to where the pressure is off of Armando, and it's not as much of like a sort of force feed him a post touch. Like there were times last year where it was like, oh, no one can throw the ball into the ocean. So I guess the best option is just going to be to force feed Armando Bacot. And who cares if there's 3 guys around him and it leads to a turnover half the time? Like, so he's not going to have the same level of usage, and he probably won't average the 16 points a game he did as a junior, maybe even I think he was close to 15 again, or excuse me, 16 again last year. Like he might be around 13,
Mm-hmm.
14, but his rebound numbers are going to stay the same. And if he continues to defend like this and pass like this, I mean, I think he's really emerged as a passer out of double teams. I think that was sort of one of the missing links in his offensive game, especially was just last season, a lot of turnovers out of double teams where he sort of figured it out. And, it's almost like a lesser extent of what Trace Jackson Davis did last year. Where, throughout his career, TJD was getting his 20 and 10 games, but Indiana wasn't winning. When he started passing out doubles and they ran the offense through him, they finally made the tournament and won some big games in the Big Ten. And, I don't think Baycott is the same talent as TJD. Like, obviously, he's a legitimate guy for the
Right.
Warriors right now. But yeah,
Right.
Baycott being able to find whether it's RJ Davis or Cormac out of give and goes, or the 2 games in a row now, he's found Harrison Ingram out of a double team for a 3. Like when the opponent, it was Pitt earlier in the week, and it was Clemson on Saturday when they cut the lead to either 4 or 5 points, and you kicks it out to Ingram, who really put the game away, both of these contests. So yeah, big shout out to him. And sort of like you said, it seems like people had kind of forgotten about Armando, and he's the kind of guy who does take this stuff personally. I think when you have a player like PJ Hall talking his talk and getting all these accolades.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely. One thing with UNC too is like this is the advantage of the portal is that UNC is an older team and an experienced team and plays that way. You
Mm-hmm.
have guys who have high basketball IQ who are experienced. They're all good passers too, kind of to your point, and that has helped them establish an identity pretty quickly. And they know who they are and they're playing into it. From Clemson perspective, I think this has the chance to be a tipping point in their season. Last year, they started off hot. I think they were like 15-4 or something along those lines, and ended up finishing 8-8 in their last 16 games. Like fell out. It was a big reason why they missed the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, you're right. They were
One of
15-3. Started
15
15
and
and 3
3.
and didn't make the tournament.
Yeah,
That's
and
wild.
one of those losses on that stretch was to Louisville, which is why like their variance right now as we stand. Clemson was 9-0. They've lost 3 of their last 5 games, or 2 and 3 of the last 5 games. Now those losses are not bad. UNC, very good team. At Miami, at Memphis, all ranked caliber teams. That's not a huge deal. But you have the slide coming. Next 4 games at Virginia Tech. If you don't play well, you could lose there. Home against Boston College should be fine. Home against Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech has a couple big wins this year. And at Florida State, who's playing a lot better. If Clemson is going to stay at the top of the ACC and be in this, they need to go 4-0. Like, and that'll kind of stabilize their season, and we know who they are, right? If they don't, like, this is going to be another year with Brad Brownell where you're like, you started off hot and you kind of getting less out of these guys. What's going on? Brownell's been on the hot seat his entire tenure at Clemson. I don't think anything's actually going to ever change. He's going to coach there as long as he wants to. But like, this is an important stretch for Clemson. Going in, they played Duke on January 27th. These are the 4 games before that. You need to hold serve. We need to see their role players play better. They've dipped recently. PJ Hall has dipped recently. Like, this needs to be an across the board effort of getting back to the way they were playing when they were beating Alabama, beating Pitt, beating South Carolina, beating TCU, and doing so pretty handily. Right, you were getting good games from Chase Hunter. Joe Gerard was playing well and shooting well. PJ Hall was getting 20 and 10 and being a dominant force. Like, you have to get back to that, and the opportunity is there for them to, if they do, stabilizes things. I think the conversation about Clemson is legit, but if not, I think the same thing that happened last year is in danger of happening again. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think I'm way less worried about this rendition of Clemson than last year's team. I just think they have more talent. Like Joe Gerard, up until these past 2 games, it seemed like a perfect fit. I mean, if he's the one who needs to get out of this slump quickly, because I mean, RJ Davis and Elliot Cadeau and Seth Trimble, like that trio put the clamps on him. Whoever was on him, he couldn't score on any of them. And like, aside from I think both Cadeau and RJ have improved a lot defensively. Cadeau especially is sort of night and day differently, a different defender than he was at the start of the season. But still, I wouldn't say RJ Davis or Cadeau are plus defenders right now. And Gerard should go better than, what was he, like 1 for 6, 1 for 7 against them? It might have even been worse than that. He was 1 for 10. He finished 1 for 10.
Yeah.
0 for 4 from 3. And I know his numbers looked okay against Miami, but it seemed like that second half.
There were some garbage time baskets.
Because the second half, he was
boosted his numbers,
bricking shots. Like, the shot selection in general was like, dude, you got PJ Hall, you got Shefflin, who's tough around the basket as well. Like, help get those dudes involved and let the pressure, be taken off of you. This is sort of like what he fell into at Syracuse when he had to create everything. You'd have super high highs and very low lows. And so playing more within himself. And I think even Chase Hunter, I thought he had some nice moments against UNC, but was a bit tentative on a couple clean looks he had from 3 and dribbled into a bad shot. Like, that's what they got to get ironed out quickly, because I still think the offensive numbers are really encouraging. They're still a top 25 offense after scoring 55 points at home to UNC. So they haven't, I would still be encouraged about that if I was a Clemson fan. But yeah, I'm with you that these next 4 games, it's kind of 4-0 or bust. You really don't want to, like, you have that opportunity with the Duke game, but it's in Cameron, going to be really tough to win, to where it's not going to be a death knell in their season. But I think especially, like, I know Virginia Tech is a tough place to play at. This Tech team is not very good. They can't stop anybody. They just lost to a bad Florida State team.
Clemson should win. But like, this is when we find out. Right. Like, I don't know if there are any red flags that have popped up for Clemson yet, but there are a lot of things. You mentioned Gerard shooting, PJ Hall, like everyone kind of playing a little bit worse, hitting a rough patch. There are some things that are just worth paying attention to. And they're like, the red flags aren't raised, but they're out, getting ready to be raised if certain things happen.
Well, anything else we want to hit on from this game or any other performances?
No, I mean, I'm incredibly impressed with the UNC and continue to be. Like there's probably 8 or 9 teams that have separated themselves this season as being the top 8 or 9. And there's a clear line after them.
Mm-hmm.
UNC is absolutely in that top group.
I'm with you on that. I wanted to give a quick shout out to Paxton Wojcik, who hit a huge three off the bounce down the stretch. Man, I can't remember who was guarding, but he crossed up someone and I don't know if it was a step back, but it was definitely an off the dribble three. Then Seth Trimble came down the next possession and hit a big three afterwards, and that was kind of curtains. And so I appear less biased. I will say Ian Shefflin is a dog. That dude is so tough.
Yes.
He is.
This was arguably his best game. He's had a lot of games like this, but
Mhm.
he was the reason this was close.
Yeah, I mean, I know he's been pretty dominant on the glass all year. It's so amazing because he's listed at 6'8", 238, and he is. I mean, I think I said on the Sleepers pod that he's sort of mechanic shaped. Like he does not look. It's not like he's not like Chauncey Wiggins or R.J. Godfrey, who were built like freaking action figures for Clemson. You know, like they got size, they use their length well, but yeah, Shefflin is just like a freaking animal on the glass. I thought he played really well, and that again should be encouraging for Clemson fans that you can go against a team with like UNC that has the length of a Harrison Ingram, the overall physicality of Armando Bacot, not the most athletic front court, but still able to get it done. So
yeah, absolutely.
well, that's all we have for this one. Like Ralph plugged, make sure you read the Ralph report on Heat Check CBB. We will have our midseason All-American rankings posted later this week as well, with little blurbs on who our teams will beat. And as always, keep tuning into the Sleepers Media YouTube channel. Subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcast from as well. They're coming at you live with daily episodes. And we will be here on this channel providing you the best content you're going to find on previews and recaps of every big game.